Hey, this is Melika Gradek, and you're listening to F11 Photography Podcast.
The F11.
You said two.
I fucked up. To the. Okay, fine. I don't know how to type. I get it. There you go.
All right. Hey, this is Melika Gradek, and you're listening to the F11 Photography Podcast.
3, 2, 1, go. Let's go.
You are listening to the F11 Photography Podcast.
To the chasers of light, to the purveyors of pictures, to all of you listening around the world, this is the F11 Photography Podcast. I am your host, Kevin Deal, along with your other host, one Brandon Gorrie.
Hello, everybody. Yes, it's good to be here. Yes, once again, we are back in the keep. We are recording. Yes. Kevin, laugh, damn you. You seem so stoic over there. Don't give me that face.
Can you tell which one of us has had our coffee?
It's not like that. You can't just reduce my theatrics to caffeine.
Yeah, except that he literally just got done drinking a cup of iced coffee.
Down the gullet.
What are you up to right now, dude?
Yes. Right now, I had the pleasure of putting myself under immense pressure by scheduling a lot of shoots, and all of which expand beyond things that I'm used to doing. So I'm about to be very stressed for the next month and a half.
That's why they invented scotch.
I don't drink scotch. I'm not that patient.
It's your problem. You can't wait. You can't wait 20 years for a scotch to age.
No. I'll tell you what I do.
You just said doo-doo. Go ahead.
I knew you. I waited for it. I like to microdose ketamine and mushrooms together.
Okay, go on.
No, I'm joking. But ketamine is legal in Texas.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
It is. No. It's actually a crazy thing. You get those like commercials and whatnot on Instagram. But no, there is one company who will send you a 30-month supply of ketamine as an antidepressant, and it's only like $80 a month. It's insane.
Worst tranquilizer.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. Yeah, you can't escape that. That's part of the deal.
Okay. Well, I don't have that going on in my life right now. I had a big thing I had to do last week. So when lockdown was happening, they couldn't give cars away because no one was going out. And so like Vroom and Carvana and all those places were just like, we'll give you a fucking car. Just like take it. And so I got a car for basically nothing. No interest rate, basically.
I got my car during that time, 1.95%.
Yeah, I'm somewhere in there. And then they like overextended their reach there. And then all of a sudden, they're like, now people are like, we need cars. We don't have any cars. Well, then you got to pay way more for this car. So anyway, I got a car during that point in time. And that car that I got, all of a sudden, after 3 years, had insane transmission issues. Like I was driving down the road and it was just like, yeah, it's so hot that we're going to put your engine in idle mode. And I was like, oh no. So, and it was a newer car. So I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to get rid of it. Or because the new transmission's like $5,000. So I'm like, okay, well, I was going to get an electric car in a few years, but I guess I got to get it now. So they have the $7,500 tax rebates, but I'm not really feeling the Tesla right now. So I decided to use that as a negotiation tactic. And the only way you're going to grow the electric car industry is by normalizing normal-looking cars that are... Because the problem with the electric industry is like everything looked like a stupid... Like some idiot comes up with a design and goes, let's make a really ugly car and then we'll make it environmentally friendly. It's like, why don't you just make a regular car, rip out the internal combustion engine and just put an electric engine in it. And then like, that's it. Like just make a normal car electric. And that was always the problem. So Hyundai kind of started doing this. And I was like, well, they're made in Korea, so they don't qualify for a $7,500 tax rebate. So, but that's what I want. And so I saw that they were doing a $5,000 rebate off MSRP, and one of the things that people say is, "Oh yeah, good luck getting something off MSRP." Well, they're doing $5,000 off. I'm like, cool. I'm only $2,500 apart from getting my $7,500. So there are two types of people in this world. There are people who absolutely dread going into a car dealership to negotiate the price of their car. Then there's another type of person, and after doing our episode on closing clients, what kind of person do you think I am?
I think you go in there and you tire out those poor post-college graduates who got their first sales job and they're trying to shovel stuff into you. You're like, no, let me tell you how it's going to go. I think you're that guy. I
am to a T, that guy. I take so much pleasure in beating the shit out of a car dealer. I love it. And the thing is that where people get it wrong is they focus on getting emotionally attached to the car. I get emotionally attached to the car once I get emotionally attached to the deal that the car dealership gives me. Once they hit my number, then they'll open up that part of my mind that will get emotionally attached to the actual car. So anyway, lucky for them, they were doing a $5,000 rebate because that's $5,000 less I had to beat the shit out of them over, right? They started in a more favorable position for their mental health. So, and I'm not an egotistical person, except when it comes to stuff like this. Then I'm like, you have to be like super, like you have to go in there like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, right? And so that's what I do when I go into a car dealership. So anyway, I made them make up the other $2,500 by front loading my car. They gave me what I bought my car for at the beginning of the pandemic with a fucked up transmission, and they knew it, and they gave me the other $2,500. Like after they gave me what they were going to give me for my car, I made them give me another $2,500. I'm like, there we go. There's the $7,500. I'm satisfied. I'm now emotionally attached to the car. I'll buy it.
I hope that sales representative has a therapist.
I hope so too. But what's weird about being an EV person? So first and foremost, there's the reason I wanted to go electric is because it is a slightly smaller carbon footprint, but let's be honest, you're still burning coal. So like you're an idiot if you're going to try to take that stance. But it's more like I don't really want to give the Saudis my money, and I don't want to give the Venezuelans my money because people think that like all the oil we get comes from here. And it's like, no, oil's a chief export. It goes other places. That's how oil companies make all their money. So you're not actually like helping out American jobs usually when you buy gas. As a matter of fact, I would argue that you are 100% helping out American jobs by buying electricity because it stays here. So if you get an EV car, you're actually helping the economy out more.
Well, look, I'm no paleontologist, but the Saudis' oil does get refined in Texas.
Correct. It comes from Saudi Arabia, and it gets refined in Texas.
But that blue-collar worker who's slipping and sliding in grease all day in Houston, you are paying his salary.
Not if I go electric.
Well,
I'm paying for the energy company that's also in Houston, Reliant, people like that. They're still making their money. It's just, yeah. And by the way, the other thing, what does it cost to fill up a tank right now? Between about $45 and $100, right?
It takes me about 28. I drive a Civic.
That's cool. Guess how much it costs to fill up my 300-mile range EV?
All right, $4.
6.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, it cost me $6 to fully charge my car.
Nice.
Just plugging it into my house, and yeah, it takes about 7 hours, but you just plug it in at night.
Yeah, it's like a cell phone.
And then the other cool thing that Hyundai did, because they really want to bite into those Model 3, and I lied, I didn't want to buy a Model 3, and I said, hey, I want to buy a Tesla Model 3, but just like talk me out of it, right? Mm-hmm. I had no intention of buying a Model 3, but one thing that they also do is they give you 2 free years of fast charging, which only takes 18 minutes to fill your car up. 2 free years. I just go up and I like put my phone up to this little charger, and then I can charge my car in like 18 minutes, and I'm good. So they're really, really working for that market. But anyway, let's talk about today's sponsor. We're going to be talking about Luminar Neo. Enhance your workflow. Harness the power of artificial intelligence with Luminar Neo. If you don't like to edit, and you don't like to do a bunch of post-production work, and you want modules to do things for you, go check out Luminar Neo. It has AI masking, which is my favorite thing because I don't like to pull out my stylus and like draw a model and draw a street and draw a train. I want it to just look at my scene and go, that's a person, that's a street, that's a train. And then from there, I can adjust my model, maybe pull the shadows up to make them stand out a little bit more in the foreground. Maybe if you do landscape photography and you have power lines everywhere, you can use their power line erase tool. Maybe you took a perfect landscape, but you screwed up on the sky. They have many different skies, and not only can you change the orientation of the sun, you can adjust the amount of sunbeams that are in there. You can change the orientation of the clouds. You can flip the sky horizontally. There's all sorts of crazy things that you can do with Luminar Neo. Brandon and I both have videos that we did on Luminar, and we both love it. We both endorse it. And if you check out a link in the description of this podcast, or you use the code Kevin10, you can get 10% off your copy of Luminar Neo today. Speaking of today we have a guest in our studio, an awesome model, local to Austin. And this is going to be volume 2 of Models Talk Photographers. We had an episode of photographers talking about models. In volume 1 of Models Talking About Photographers, we had the lovely Sophia Bashan come in. But on today's episode, we're going to have the lovely Melika. I can't speak today. On today's episode, we're going to have the lovely Melika Gradek.
What's up, guys?
Welcome to the studio. So, I've worked with you several times, and you have some awesome news to share with us. You recently signed a contract with a modeling agency, so congratulations.
Thank you.
And what was that process like, working with a modeling agency and getting signed?
Well, I have to thank you to start, because you introduced me to this modeling agency. I already had an eye on them for a while, but I've always just been nervous to approach modeling agencies based off of my height. But, thanks to you, they were interested in wanting to see more. And so, we got together, did some digitals, sent that over to them. And, a couple weeks later, I headed up to Dallas to meet them. And, they welcomed me with open arms to their family. So that's the start of it.
That's awesome. And for years you did independent modeling. But why is now the time to do the modeling agency route?
Oh, goodness. Okay, so I was thinking about it before this podcast. I've been modeling off and on for about 13 years. So, I grew up here in Austin. I started like around 14, got approached by a modeling coaching school at the mall. And, that just kind of pushed me to, want to pursue it. But at that time, 10 years ago, Austin really wasn't, a place that it didn't have the community that we have now with the photographers and models. So I just off and on did hair shows. I decided to go to college, went to a liberal arts school. So, shot with friends there. My mom ended up, starting her own jewelry line and leather bags. So I was her model there for a while. But I really wanted to get into it, but wasn't sure how to get into it. Pandemic happened, and then, I shot with some photographer friends, and I was just asking them, I was like, how do I branch into this market here? And they told me to reach into Facebook and join that group. So, I've been doing freelance pretty consistently for the last 3 years. Well, I work full time. I got a house full of animals. So now's the time for an agency, for them to market me, kind of help go out there, find jobs for me. Obviously, I have my part in it, but I'm just ready for the next step in the career.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the pandemic, because you and I met during the pandemic. It was right as the vaccine was going around. It was at that. So anybody listening who's gone through the pandemic, which is probably all of you, we all went through like these little milestones in the pandemic. Right around the time where it was like, hey, are you vaxxed? Yeah, I'm vaxxed. I found a vaccine. And like that was when we met. It's like, oh, you're vaxxed. I'm vaxxed. All right. Well, our chances have gone down like 80% of transmission or whatever. So, or even if so, have gone down significantly in one of us being hospitalized. So we were like, all right. So we did a collaboration shoot in Austin. And the funny thing was I was scrolling through Instagram and I landed on your page and I was like, oh, well, she's got to be signed. I wonder if she'll even like work with me. It's so funny. It's so funny, like when people tell these stories, and and like, well, really, I thought you were going to say the same thing. Like, I can't believe you reached out to me. Like, it's so funny how that works. How we all have like that imposter syndrome. But no, seriously, I was like, there's no like, maybe she'll say yes, and she was like, yeah, let's go. And like, still like to this day, like we worked together several times, but we still have so many great images from that first shoot. And what struck me is for an unsigned model, how great your posing was for someone who's self-taught. So where did you learn to pose? Because you do some, like I have a friend who is a model who saw one of your shots and she's like only like professional models know how to do that kind of pose. And I was like, well, she's not with anybody. So
my dirty little secret, America's Next Top Model is where it all started. Just like listening to them, hearing their critiques, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is what I need to do. So that's like one part of it. And then the other part is being a Polynesian dancer. It's, it's speaking with your hands, telling a story. So implementing the two, I feel like with Polynesian dancing, I just kind of slow down my movements to capture those in-between moments. And yeah, I mean, practice in the mirror always, yeah.
Polynesian dancing.
Yeah, hold on. We'll get into that in a second. But hold on. We'll get into that in a second. It's something that actually, I feel like an idiot because like I showed her picture to the agency she's with, and they're like, oh, is she a dancer? And like, I had just got done like shooting in 108-degree weather and was like super fucking tired. And I was like, no, she doesn't dance. And like I drove home and I'm like, wait, she does fucking dance. So, like I texted Michaela back. I was like, yeah, she dances. Like I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. I was like really tired. But yes, she does dance. Go ahead and elaborate on that because Brandon is perplexed.
Polynesian. What does that mean?
Polynesian. So I don't say Hawaiian dancing because the troupe I'm a part of, which I have been dancing for 18 years now. I'm not 18, y'all.
She's not 18.
18 years. So we do all types of the Polynesian islands. So obviously Hawaii, we'll do Tahitian. For all of you guys out there who don't know, when you think of Hawaiian dancing, most people, they think of the fast hips, grass skirts, like straight jumps. That's Tahitian.
Which is funny because Brandon. You have like a Gilligan's Island hat on. I'm tying all the thematic stuff together here.
I've got a Croatian bucket hat on, first of all, let me clarify, speaking of the Balkans. But yeah, when I think of Polynesian dancing, I see two things. I see the Tahitian movement that you just went through, and I see the New Zealand All Blacks doing the fucking haka on the field.
So we also do, we don't do the haka, but we do...
That's good, because I can't imagine her going, I don't want to like disrespect him, but when I see him do it, I'm like, whoa, that's fucking nuts, man. They're about to kill me or something.
Oh, man, that was my one thing I wish I would have been able to have done in New Zealand was to go to an All Blacks event. That would have been badass. But
that's right. You did visit there. I remember I saw it in your story like a long time ago.
The Kiwis. Yeah.
The Kiwis. Yeah. So, but we also do Maoris. So that's like with poi balls. I mean, here we think of EDM and all the fire dancing and whatnot. But
circling back to the ketamine, yeah.
But yeah, so the group that we dance, we're kind of just like entertainment. If you're wanting to throw a luau party or... I don't know, cultural events, any of that, or you hire us if you want entertainment.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you like that region so much that you have the Hawaiian Islands tattooed on your torso?
On my ribs, and I will say that was a last-minute tattoo. It was my sophomore year in college. We just moved into our house, and my roommates are like, let's go get a fucking tattoo. And I'm like, yeah! And I'm like, well, I don't know what I want to get. And I was like, you know what's a safe bet? The Hawaiian Islands.
Yeah.
Does a rib tattoo hurt?
No. The one on the back of my leg hurts so much more than my rib tattoo.
You got one down the side of your leg. It's a Tolkien quote, right?
It sure is.
And what does it say?
Oh, gosh. Not all those who wander are lost.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it
Right
too.
off the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can't go wrong with Tolkien. I mean, you really can't. So,
Token the goat.
Hey, this is Vanessa Joy, and you're listening to the F11 Photography Podcast.
so I would say you really hit your stride during the pandemic with modeling, right?
Yeah, so it was the beginning of 2021. That was the what I was saying with the photographer group friends that I know and asking them how to get involved or get connected in the community. That's where they said the Facebook page. And I feel like at that time, our Facebook page, because everybody was coming back, everybody was getting vaccinated. So, you know, I feel like it was all models, all photographers in the area. So I, you know, followed everybody. And then, you know, Kevin, you're one of probably the second person I shot with. 3 great photographers that I shot off the bat. And
Raphael, who was in here, was one of them.
Yep. And you know, now just it's such an honor to have worked with him so early on and kind of coming back into modeling here.
Actually, the fact that Raphael, like, so when I saw Melika, I was like, oh, I mean, you know, she has to be signed. I already said that, but I was like, oh, and then like when I found out she wasn't, I was like, am I crazy? Like, she seems like she'd be fucking badass at this shit. And then when I saw Raphael work with her, it was like a validation of, I chose wisely. And then she also just got signed with an agency that a lot of models I know would love to get signed with. And I'm like, okay, that's like the icing on the cake of the validation that, like, when I was scrolling through, I was like, yep. It's kind of like you see somebody and you want to reach out to him, and it's okay, I know that I want to work with him, but I can't necessarily put it into words why, which is why I shoot photography, but I also have to not come across as a fucking weirdo when I reach out to them. So it's like, don't get too excited about wanting to work with them. Like say, hey, I really like your work. We want to work together sometime. But I was like, she was like one of the ones when I was like, I hope she says yes. I really fucking hope she says yes. So, and you know, if you look through her work, like, we work together a ton.
Yeah,
so.
You say a couple times. We've worked together at least 10 plus times.
What?
Oh yeah,
That's crazy. You guys are putting out work.
Yeah, I mean, these last 3 years, like I said, Kevin was the second photographer that I connected with once I, like, you know, I created a whole separate Instagram for modeling because I wanted to keep it separate from my personal one, and just because I felt like, you know, my average Joe friends and family don't want to just be bombarded with all modeling stuff. Wanted to keep it separate. So I know at that time I only had like 2 or 3 photos on my page. So you say,
well, that's why I was like, but here's the thing, like, a lot of models, it's funny, a lot of models who are like signed and stuff are like super low key about like that they're even with an agency. So I was just like, oh, I wonder if she's one of those that like doesn't really like flaunt it on Instagram. Some are like, they play. They are like, look at me, I have like 100,000 followers, and some of them have like 2.
It's so true. You look at those models who are signed with like a great agency, and then you look at their feed, and it's just like the corners of houses or like blurry lines of like a coffee mug in the morning. It's like, okay, I get it, you're artistic, but where the fuck is your content? Like, what do you look like?
exactly.
It's on like Elite's website or Ford Models website, and they don't need Instagram. They're getting like really good gigs.
You go and click on their website, and it's just like a blank page with like a period and like a quote that you have to like zoom in on to see it, and it's just like, Jesus Christ, like, this person is so impossible. But getting into it, I did want to ask you a question, Melika. Is it all right if I call you Melika?
Yes, absolutely.
That's literally
Thanks
her
for
fucking
asking,
name.
Brand.
Yeah, of course.
What are you gonna call her, Malik? Like Malik Monk, who's a basketball player in
Don't
the NBA.
tempt me. I might.
I'm gonna start calling her Malik.
But
Wouldn't be the first time.
But that being said, I just wanted to go on a tangent about Rafi, but I'm not going to. I get the sort of impression, and I have the fortune in right now of not having worked with you before, but having admired a lot of your work. I get the impression that you're the type of model who works with photographers in a way where oftentimes you're showing up with the bigger pants and creatively. You know,
She's too humble to say. Believe me, when she said yes to working with me, I was like, fuck yeah, I know I'm gonna get some good shit out of this, and I did. So yes, she it's the whole work with somebody who's at a higher level than you.
Yeah.
and then they
yeah.
pull you up to their level, and then now you're at their level. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's she. Whether she would realize it or not, I was like, she has like. So I'm always looking for models who like. I see something where it's like, okay, there's like this level above that I know that I can get to with them. And they may not even know it. They don't know who the fuck I am. And they may not even want to work with me for all I know. But like, I'm always like, okay, I'm looking for something that like stands out. And I think what it is it's something that I know I can bring out in my shots. I'm like, no, they have it. And I can see in other people's work that they have it. And so that's why, like, if you look at my work, she's in there a shitload. And especially like there's some models that like, I'll be like, okay, I can't use them for this project. I can't use them for that project. I can pretty much use her for anything that I want to do. Now, there's some things that she probably wouldn't be into, so I know not to reach out to her for it. But
You're
like,
too kind. Like what? What do you mean?
you can't put me on the spot. But no, like okay. So
What are you talking about? Let's answer the question, Kevin.
Always down.
Yeah,
You're the one that turns down my ideas.
I did. I've only turned down one of your ideas, but no, like Melika, like I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna do like this crazy shoot in infrared. Who's the first person I'm gonna think of? Melika. I want to do a shoot with two people who have never met one another before and make them look like best friends and take them out to a field where they're like chilling out and smoking a joint and looking like they've been best friends for years. I got Melika to do that, and I also got Sophia, who was the other person who did this volume with us. And then I want someone to shave their face with a straight razor in front of a frame. You know, like I always know that like my weird ideas will be received well by her, and so, but I also need to say that a lot of these ideas are hers too. That's another thing is like I feed off other people's creativity. So I didn't come up with this idea; she came up with this idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, and going back to the razor shoot, you know, you approached me about it, and you know, I questioned. I was like, "Well, are you thinking a straight razor or like a regular razor?" And you're like, "Sweeney Todd straight razor." I'm like, "Fuck yeah, let's do that." So we got a bit of that collaboration in there. It's cool that you were, you know, open and
she trusts me enough to where she's like, "Throw my ass in a mud pit." So there you go. She did a shoot, a raw earth shoot where she got covered in mud. It was fun.
Yeah.
But
wow.
But yeah, and then I come back at her on the same series where it's like, hey, I want to do UV ultraviolet, but I want to get Bailey, who's an awesome makeup artist, by the way, that Brandon has used before as well. We got Bailey to cover you up in sunscreen, and we got purple all over you. And I fucked with it a little bit. I haven't released it yet. I'm gonna, but I got the freckles. I got your freckles are violet.
Oh, I did. Yes.
Yes, there's a little bit of violet. I mean, I went such on a very light opacity there because I just wanted them. I wanted it to be just purple enough to where people are like, is that purple? And that's what I did with that edit. But anyway, I think one of the reasons why you got signed with an agency, well, I've got another story we're going to go into in a minute because there's highs and there's lows. I think one of the reasons why you got signed with, in my opinion, a really good agency so easily is because you have this very diverse book. So much, in fact, that didn't they say that pretty much your book is good?
Yeah, they told me I don't really have to start fresh for a portfolio. Just send them all the shoots I've done, and we'll just kind of build from there. And once I, you know, change up my hair, we'll do some more test shoots. But for the most part, I don't have to.
That's pretty awesome. That means that you trusted your intuition and it all worked out. Like, well, and that also kind of validates my thought was that she was operating on this professional level all along. You know, if they go, oh yeah, you're perfect for us, but we have to start your book over again, then clearly you weren't working with the right photographers. But you're working with Raphael. I mean, come on, like you're gonna get some good work out of that. So I'm gonna kiss Raphael's ass. He's been on here. It's okay. We love Raphael. But that being said, okay, so you got signed and that's awesome, but you've also been on the other side of the pendulum with modeling agencies where some questionable shit has gone down. Do you want to tell the story of me sitting on my couch on a Sunday? I just got done watching an English Premier League soccer match and my phone rings, and it's Melika. Tell me about that story.
Yeah, oh gosh, it's kind of a horror story.
Don't need to name names.
No. Yeah, so a mother agency here in Austin, you know, I followed them from the beginning just to like, you know, network, just put myself out there. And they were doing an open call on a Sunday for like all ages, all heights, like none of that. So I was teetering about going, but they reached out and I was like, okay, like I'll go, I'll test it out. It'd be, at this point I've been, wanting to sign with an agency. And it was a bizarre experience. Well, one, I was like one of the only non-minor there. So everybody was there with their moms and parents or dads. Kind of fast forward, he was wanting to sign with me, but one of the big things, and he knew this was going to be an issue for me, is that I couldn't work with other photographers, only their designated photographer, which, like, when he said that, I, like, thinking, I'm like, well, I have, like, 4 badass paid shoots, like, coming up these next couple weeks, and you're telling me I can't work with them? Gave us like 15-20 minutes to read through the contract. So 2-year commitment, can't work with other photographers, all of that. And so I first called my mom. I'm like, this is kind of, I don't know. She's like, call Kevin, he's the perfect person. I'm like, okay. We probably talked on the phone for like 45 minutes to an hour, and then it was just getting weirder and weirder because he brought all of their models there to kind of do like training.
To be clear, it wasn't you and I that talked on the phone for 45 minutes to an hour that was weird. It was you and the agency.
Yes, no. Talking with Kevin, no, not weird at all. I was so eternally grateful to have you and just like, is this what I want to do? Because you're the photographer I've really worked with the most, so you know my potential and, more familiar with agencies, so...
You are listening to the F11 Photography Podcast.
So anyway, you were talking about the agency you were talking with, and I use quotation marks around agency, and especially use quotation marks around mother agency. Mm-hmm. Who was the photographer for the agency?
The owner of the agency.
Aha!
Dun dun dun.
That's terrible.
Yeah, and so I guess I just, like, at the beginning, whenever I started following, I didn't really have, like, I guess the best eye for photography. So I was, like, just going through his page. I'm like, okay, it's kind of basic stuff, not necessarily the type of shoots I'd want to do or, like, brand myself. But until I talked to Kevin and he pulled up their Instagram and he's like, God, the editing's horrible and all blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, no. So Kevin and I got off the phone. I went to go talk with the agency guy, and I was like, I'm going to need a little bit more time. Like, I really want to read through this because this is, again, a 2-year commitment. Like, at that time, I was 25, and so I'm like, what? I'm going to be stuck with this agency for 2 years, come out at 27, 28, and then, like, kind of wasted 2 years. That was a big thing for me.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're a model listening to this episode, because we actually do get a lot of models who like this type of episode where we have a model in here. One thing that was a big red flag about this agency is, like, when you go to a legit modeling agency's website, they'll just show, like, the model's book, their portfolio. And maybe there's some shots occasionally where the model's in underwear, lingerie, or topless or whatever. They had, like, a section of each model. Here's their lingerie work. Here's their lingerie pricing. And it's like, yeah, that's a little, that's not normal. That's abnormal. A legitimate agency would not, like, have a category for that. And so that was, like, a huge red flag. It's not out of the question for an agency to, like, say, hey, you can't just work with any photographer. We need to clear it. As a matter of fact, the agency you just signed with, the legitimate agency, clears all their photographers. And I actually think that it's kind of odd that more agencies don't do that, because if you actually want to grow the model's books, you should be very invested in how the book turns out, and therefore you should be invested in the quality of the photographer they work with. So I've got nothing to worry about in terms of, like, I mean, maybe they don't like my work. That's one thing. But I don't have to worry about, like, being a shithead or being on a blacklist of somebody you don't want to work with because they're, like, inappropriate. And that's part of the reason why they filter through that as well. It's not just about the quality of the work. Whereas in this case, it's just like, no. Not only do you have to work with our photographer, the photographer is also the owner of the site that has the lingerie section. It's like, and everybody's just 18 or just turning 18. And it's like, yeah, there's some weird stuff going on here. So anyway, long story short, I was like, yeah, I probably would aim a little higher. I think you could do better. And here you are.
Oh yeah, no, that was the best decision. And whenever I told him I needed like the weekend to read through the contract and make the decision, he like kind of turned around on me and he's like, "Well, I don't think this is gonna be a good fit. Like just the way you're responsive." And I'm like, "Whoa, okay, this is definitely not like the agency I want to be with." And yeah,
it wasn't an agency. It was just that guy's like fantasies. Like, how can I just get people to make me money with their bodies?
I can,
Yeah.
It's interesting, like how easy it is to start. And I don't use this word as it's a legitimate word, but it's really easy to start an agency. Like I could tomorrow just say Kevin Deal Models, and I have enough models I've worked with in this town to where I just be like, yeah, I'll just take like 20% of anything you make, and I could put together a legit looking website. Now, I would never do it. I don't want to run a modeling agency and I'm not saying that I would actually run a good one. I probably wouldn't, which is why I would never do it, and that's not even something I think about. But the reason I'm saying that is because I could put together a website that looks legit, and I think my photography is good enough to where I could make it work. Absolutely. But that's the point is, camera gear can get you if you go take 2,500 shots of a model, you'll probably get one that doesn't suck, even if it's by accident, right? You can probably get a pretty damn good shot of a model. So you just got to find that one shot and go, boom, done. And you gather enough of those up and people will think that you're this amazing photographer. But then when they realize that like, holy shit, I work with this guy and he took 2,500 pictures of me and we only got one shot that didn't suck, that's when you're outed. But you can, if you're savvy enough, you can put all that together. And so that's what this guy did with this one website. And he's finally starting to get the bad reputation in the professional circles, which is good because for a while he hit it really well with his 1 out of every 2,500 shots that would turn out. And he fooled a lot of women. And I would actually say girls, because a lot of the people that he was looking at are fucking girls. Let's be honest. Like barely like, they're, you're at that age where you're learning how to like balance your checking account and stuff like that. Like that's
Kevin, who does that? Brandon, do you know how to balance your checking account?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, that's old man me coming out. You just make sure that you're in the black, you're good to go. So let's shift gears to talking about working with photographers. What have you learned about yourself and what you like? What are you looking for when you're looking to work with a photographer? What specifically are you looking for? Besides some generic answer like if they're good.
Absolutely. Well, one of the first things I do if it's a new photographer, I like to vet them out. One of my biggest things is seeing versatility, because I think my perk with my portfolio is that I've just gone out and just done diverse shoots, all types of styles, editorial, commercial, et cetera, et cetera.
Cinematic with Jimmy James.
Yep, cinematic. So I'm looking for, someone who's, number one, easy to work with, respectful. We don't technically have to be best friends, but, banter is really nice. It just keeps things comfortable. I really look for, in photographers, they have somewhat of a vision, but is kind of free reign, like we can be adaptable with each other.
So, for instance, one of the reasons why I think we've worked together so much is one of us will approach the other about a general idea, but we also know that the other usually has something else that they can add to it to make it better. And there's that back and forth. And do you find that photographers who come in and go, look, it's going to be this, and this, that you tend to have not as great of experiences with them and they don't necessarily give you as good a work? So
yes and no. I will say 2 types of photography, and I don't do this a lot, but boudoir. I shoot with one couple. I've known them forever, very, very comfortable with them. But with boudoir, they have the list of photos, reference photos that they want me to match. And that is just, it makes it not enjoyable because we're spending so much time trying to get into a position that he wants. And now granted, with boudoir, they don't typically shoot with models. They shoot with, as you say, subjects. So they do have to pose their models in, or the subjects into those positions. But, working with me, it's just like, Well, one, boudoir poses are uncomfortable. I think
Yes.
it's the hardest. Well, actually, a couple weeks ago, I did an underwater shoot trying to do that. That was also very hard. But those two are like the hardest type of modeling because of the positioning, staying still. It's not really much flowiness, movement that I really like to approach to my modeling.
It's also really boring.
Yes, yeah. No, well, and I also don't find myself to be a boudoir model. Like, I'm not curvaceous. I leave that for the other ladies.
I personally think that a woman in like lingerie fashioning it, like just going out there and fucking killing it, is way more interesting to look at than a woman who's like looking out a window through these white sheets, these white curtains, and like, oh my gosh, I'm so gorgeous. I feel so good about myself. I have so much empowerment. Like, no, man. Nah.
Until I have a dingy apartment in fucking Paris, Croatia, or wherever, I'm not going to shoot, that sort of stuff. I don't think it belongs here. Like, boudoir in the United States is like, oh, let's get purple and red silk velvet sheets and shit like that. It's just so like gross.
Well, I've had people reach out. I've had women reach out to me about shooting boudoir, and they're like, well, where do you want to do it? Because I have a studio with backdrops, and I have like outdoors. And like, well, we could do a hotel. I'm like, look, if you don't want it to look like a porn casting call, you're going to have to book a hotel that's at least $1,200 a night because they have to have like real furniture. Because, if you go to the Courtyard, because like I travel around for work and I go to Marriott properties. I know what every fucking Spring Hill Suites couch looks like. Mm-hmm. You're not going to create anything beautiful on a Spring Hill Suites couch. So anyway, because of that, I've never taken those jobs because they're just like, I don't see how I can make them better. And that's always how I say no to a job. Malika's approached me about some ideas before, and I couldn't see how I made that particular scenario better, so I said no. And it wasn't because I thought her idea was shit. It was because I can't see how I can make it better. That's why I say no to things, and that's why I don't do any boudoir, because I definitely don't see how I can make it any better at all.
Yeah, it's not to shit on a genre like boudoir.
I'll shit on the genre. like I could spend an hour shitting on boudoir, but go ahead.
Can I change my answer, please? No, no, it's. The whole point of the genre is to express a sexuality, and you cannot tell me otherwise. You're not expressing personality, you're literally accentuating boobs and cheeks, and that's like, it's just so shallow. It's like nothing beyond that. There's nothing else involved.
Well, I agree, and like that's another thing. Like I take pictures of men and women, very attractive and all that, but like I'm always like trying to be super self-aware about not sexualizing it. Like if I do shoot a model topless doing UV stuff, it's like a work of art. It's not like, ooh, like, yeah, she's hot. I want to, because then people start side-eyeing me, like, well, why are you doing this? And like, so I'm very self-conscious about it because I'm like, I don't want people to side-eye my work. And if I started shooting boudoir, like if I were a woman, I would go hire a woman boudoir photographer, because there are so many dudes out there who's like, oh, I empower women. And it's like, dude, everything looks like a sexual fantasy. Like it's pretty obvious what you got into photography for. And like, you're not going to attract like really badass models that way. And of course, that's probably one of the reasons why you're not attracted to boudoir that much, is because that's not your gig. Like you're into being a model, whereas
yeah.
Right. Well, whereas the women there are subjects, which is funny because something I always talk about, and I've talked about with every model who's been on here, is like, you'd be shocked how many women slide into my DMs. They'll see a picture of you or somebody else I've worked with, and like, I want to do that. It's like, cool. Do you know how to model? Well, my friends tell me I'm pretty. It's like, yeah, it has nothing to do with looks. I mean, really, like if you make a list of things that it takes to be a model, like how pretty somebody is, and what does that even mean? Because there's traditionally pretty, there's uniquely pretty, like a wallflower, and then there's there's different types of beauty out there. Someone who's put together 24/7, whose friends have always told them that they're pretty and they should be a model, all have the wrong idea, because all they're focusing on is looks. You're so pretty, you should be a model. And it's like, man, 99% of those women are fucking boring to take pictures of, and they don't know their bodies in front of a camera. And so, you talked about all the top model stuff. And so like, you take things to a different level. It's almost like, yeah, okay, I get it. I get booked a lot. No one's booking me because I'm ugly. You have to be over like the fact that you're you're beautiful to a lot of people, and you have to work on the actual modeling part of it. And so, how much time do you spend like working on posing in front of a mirror and stuff like that? Because you said you watch Top Model, but how much time do you actually spend like working on your body visually in front of a mirror?
Every time I'm in front of a mirror. Just
Yes.
walking by, whatever outfit I'm wearing, I just try to see like what would be a good pose for that, or just something unique. Because I do feel like right now I kind of have like my 20 poses that I always go to for every shot, but change it up a little bit. But I don't want to be like a broken record with the same poses. So anytime, any opportunity I'm in front of a mirror, I'll just do a little something. I should get some magazines, but I don't really feel like I have time for that.
Hi, I'm Jordan Groby, and you're listening to the F11 Photography Podcast.
Do you find it, and I get the sense that it's a yes, but do you find it intuitively easy to represent an expression with shape in your body? Does it just flow? You don't even have to think about it. It's like not even rehearsed. You just have like an intuitive understanding that, if I just shink, and then I'm good to go.
I would say so. Yeah. And yes, different emotions. And I try to like on a set, like think about different emotions and, obviously embodying whatever the environment, styling, lighting. I kind of just go through like a roll of emotions in my head and just like kind of pose along that just to give variety.
See, that is so advantageous. That's so seldom do I personally get to work with models who are that way, and they are the best models, because my favorite way to direct is just to describe an idea, describe a scene, and describe a character type and how those play into each other. And then I usually, like, best case scenario, the model can just like digest that and just like suddenly just boom, Yeah,
like our first shoot we ever did together. Like, look at that.
Wow.
Very first shoot.
Look at you were talking about shapes, like all the triangles of her clothes and everything, and I'll put some of these images up on the description of the episode, so when you hear us talking about something and you're like, I don't know what they're talking about,
triangles,
we'll put them in there. There's this really gorgeous shot of the very first time we worked together where Melika is sitting on some stairs and she's wearing some like kind of baggy, I don't what is that, a jumper?
A jumpsuit.
A jumpsuit. She's wearing a jumpsuit and it looks incredible. And like, this is my first time working with her. I was like, you're making me look really fucking good.
Well, do you know how few models in the industry can go to a stairs and make it like actually bring it depth? Because like when you look at models and major shoots, especially in New York and London, Milan, that sort of thing, they're not in extraordinary places. They're in very ordinary places, and the model just commands attention and takes up the space.
Well, that's why I study Peter Lindbergh. Like, that's like Peter Lindbergh will take Cindy Crawford before she's known and just put her in a white men's shirt and take her in the streets of Paris and go fucking like own this scene. And then like, ladies and gentlemen, Cindy Crawford. Have a nice career. Like that's kind of like, I like models who do that kind of shit.
Yeah, Kate Moss in her early years absolutely knew how to just take up a scene.
And that's the thing. Like, models get hung up on their height and stuff like that. Kate Moss is short because it doesn't fucking matter what her height is. She's Kate fucking Moss. Like no, you look like Kate Moss and you model like Kate Moss. We're not even gonna pull out the measuring tape. Here's a contract and like lots of money and shit. But it's
lots of money and shit.
Lots of money and shit.
Great.
So I'm just saying, you're a chameleon and you can do pretty much anything. And like, I would take this as an ultimate compliment. I have a friend who does retouching for like the Kardashians and people like that. And I think I've told you this story, but I'm gonna kiss your ass on the podcast anyway. And we were going through each other's portfolios and we rip them apart, and that's what we do. And she just said, this model, she was talking about you, is like, she photographs so well with like no makeup on. And like most women are like, fuck that, I don't want to be seen without makeup on. And she's like, no, like you need to do, and that's what planted the seed for our UV shoot that we did. I was like, hey, I need you to wear no makeup. I need you to be as plain Jane as possible and like let me do my thing. And so, that was what planted the seed for that shoot to happen. But it's true. I go through a lot of our work together, and a lot of the shoots where we're wearing minimal to no makeup. It's like, holy shit, you're killing it. So it's definitely true. You do a good job of that. Not sure if I had a question in there somewhere. We were just kissing ass, basically. But I do have a subject that Brandon and I talk about with models, which is a lot of unsigned models, which up until last week you were, really shape their portfolio to talk about themselves. Whereas when you get signed with an agency, it's more about the persona that the agency tries to create for you. So now that you've spent this awesome, you have this awesome body of work here that you feel, I'm assuming, I'm not going to speak for you because you're right here. You can tell me what you think. But this whole body of work kind of talks about you as a model. What are your thoughts on possibly having your agency now kind of push you into this persona?
I'm okay with that, to be quite honest. I mean, up until getting signed, again, I work full time, so I don't really have the luxury of just shooting whenever. So modeling's really just been an artistic outlet for me. So, going through my stuff, I mean, I love the variety. I'm not a cookie cutter in one genre. I can kind of just do a little bit of everything. So going with an agency, I'm thinking about it as like the next career step. I'm like, I've been freelance. I've been able to do whatever I want to do. Now let's make money. Let's mold me how they think I should be marketed, and let's see where we go from there. So
Well, it sounds like based on the fact that they're using your images that already exist, that it may not be too big of a departure from what you've already been doing.
hopefully not.
I think you're going to do so well with this agency because
Which, by the way, we're speaking in generalities about the agency because the official announcement hasn't gone down yet, and I have no idea when this episode's going to air versus when the actual announcement is. So we're not speaking in generalities to be purposely vague. It's just I don't want to say the name of the agency until it actually happens. But the contract's been signed, and you've had onboarding, so you're in.
I'm in.
And plus, this agency is so they cater towards international brands so well. A lot of Texas agencies, they cater towards more or less the Dallas fashion scene, which is very much, it's Old Navy meets Banana Republic, and I realize why that's funny because they're the same company. But But no, it's a massive congratulations to you because your body of work is definitely additive to their roster, and it's not just their moniker is additive to your portfolio.
Well, it's funny. It's funny because I was just like, okay, so I'll quickly tell the story about how it all went down. I was working with this agency, and you get in with an agency, and you're like, okay, well, I don't want to come on too strong. So I made sure I had like several shoots under my belt with them over like a 6-month period. And then I was finally just like, what do you think of her? And I pull up my phone and they're like, we want to see her digitals like now. And I'm like, okay. But I knew like she had a look that like was a perfect fit. Like I felt like it was like just plugging a puzzle piece in. I'm like, well, yeah, that's of course she's gonna go with that agency. That was her destiny. But you also like have that self doubt, like, oh, I'm putting my neck on the line. I hope they don't go, she's fucking ugly or something like that. And you're just like, oh no. Oh, Lord. I was like, let me just make sure they get excited about her first. And like immediately they were excited. I was like, okay. But then they were also like, we want her digitals to look exactly like this. It's like, okay, I think they really want to sign her. If they're like really like blueprinting, like don't just put her in front of a white wall, put her in front of this like 3,000 PSI concrete wall like they do with this other agency that we like. And I'm like, okay, well, clearly you want me to take her digitals a certain way. So, okay, no problem. I'll make sure she gets you those digitals that way. I'll tell her. And so yeah, it all went down. I'm super happy, but 99% of it is I'm happy for her. But then there's that 1% where it's like, okay, good, I actually scouted it correctly. Like I read the situation right. Pat myself on the back because I thought I was reading it right, but it would have been like, oh shit, if like it all like went wrong. So.
Well, I thank you for sticking your neck out on the line for me like that because I am so overwhelmed and so humbled by just this opportunity because this is something I've been wanting since I started. So
well, I'm not taking that much credit for it. All I did was show them your pictures and they said, oh, we want to meet her.
Hey, that was what I needed because, again, I've just been so nervous about, and there's no reason to. It's so silly because we know there's rejection out there, but of reaching out, auditioning for agencies, and I'm just so stuck up on my height because they're just so harsh on their websites about like 5'8" minimum, and I'm like,
Just tell them you're 5'7". Just tell them you're 5'8", and after they sign you, they'll love you so much they're not gonna renege on that shit. They're gonna be like, okay, well, whatever, we love you, go. Yeah. Also, you photograph tall, and so like, yes, I do like models to look long on camera, but I shoot so many models who are 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", who photograph like they're 6 foot, and I do like. I mean, it does look aesthetically pleasing when you look longer. I mean, that's for most people that's true, and that's a hang up that some people have. But if you photograph tall, that's the same thing to me. I've also photographed models who are tall who suck and don't photograph tall. Go ahead.
I shot Caitlin Moya, this model who's since blown up in the last 2.5-3 years. I shot her first stuff for Wallflower, and she's like 5'5", 5'6". She is tiny, and she is now pretty much just living in LA, like absolutely killing it. Like she blew up like within a year, and is absolutely killing it. And she's not classically tall. She just knows how to model. She's really, really in tune with her body. So it's just like the sky's the limit these days. Height is not an obstacle.
They really are. Yeah. So any models listening out there, don't let your height discourage you.
I will tell you this. Like if you're putting things in a prioritization order, number one, if you know your body really well in front of a camera, that's the most important thing. Because you can make yourself look taller than you are. You can model clothing in such a way to where you make yourself look taller than you actually are. And then like below that may actually be your height. But a lot of another thing that you do is you smile.
I do smile.
Yes, that's important because a lot of models want to look like fucking bitches, like they're just walking on Zoolander and they're doing the blue steel Donald Trump booking photo that just came out. which I mean, come on, let's be honest. I don't care where you lean politically. He looks like fucking Zoolander in that photo. Like it doesn't matter.
He's killing his left side.
He's killing his left side, and the thing about Derek Zoolander is he doesn't know how to turn left, so Donald Trump can. So there you go.
This is Katrina Brown, and you're listening to the F11 Photography Podcast.
I like it when models do smile on a shoot because it's like, hey, guess what? If you want to get commercial jobs, which are the jobs that pay the most, Walmart isn't going to hire a fucking bitch. Like if you look like a bitch in all your photos, like if you're going to walk runway, first of all, you better go live in New York if you're going to walk a real runway that even then it doesn't pay that much. I mean, I know models that have walked in New York Fashion Week and did it for free just because they wanted on the resume that they walked in New York Fashion Week. Yeah. Like I literally know 4 models in Austin who have walked New York Fashion Week. And if I go walk outside and pick a penny up off the ground, I made more money doing that than they did booking flights to New York, getting a hotel or Airbnb, taking an Uber to whatever fucking place they went to just to audition to walk. There wasn't even a guarantee that they were going to get in.
New York is the top of the top. And I've spent I'll be there in October after New York Fashion Week. And I've sent my portfolio to over 24 of the top agencies in the world over there. One of them has gotten back to me.
Yeah.
And this is like pro bono work. I'm going to handle literally fucking everything. I'm going to rent out the studio the whole day. I have the locations scouted. I've got the whole thing. I've been spending weeks doing this. Couldn't give a fuck.
Yeah, because
it's the top of the top. They don't need your free work. They don't need it.
Yeah, they don't need it. And there's a bunch of people like you who are living in New York who haven't been emailing them. They've been physically walking in and putting in the work and like buying people coffee. There's a stylist, a famous stylist I know. She's no longer a stylist, but she used to be a stylist. And she was just like, if you want to get in good with these people, like figure out who the people are and then go like talk about like their work, talk about what they're doing and actually like have a personalized pen pal relationship with them or whatever. And it's the same thing with magazines and stuff like that. It's like, that's the traditional way of getting your foot in the door with these people, but also like going and, doing shit jobs you don't want to do, going and shooting New York Fashion Week as an event photographer. Oh my God. Well, that's a shoot me situation.
It's not even about shooting. It's about bumping into the guy at the water stand who just happens to be the creative director for Elite NYC, That's what it is.
It's funny. I had an Elite model drop in my DMs the other day, but I'm going to save that for our next episode because there's a good story behind it. It has to do with our TFP swap thing, camera swap episode when I was looking for a model. Anyway, we'll talk about it. Okay. We'll talk about it on the episode, but it's hilarious. I'm like, no, you don't want to go to this. So anyway, let's get back to modeling. So what does the future hold for you?
Well, once I do my transformation, we'll start doing test shoots, and hopefully work will start coming in. Hopefully a little bit of travel.
I think working with photographers who are better than like me and Brandon, like getting into that tier is going to do wonders for you. Work with as many photographers as you can, but it also kind of reminds me of, you kind of get in your own head about how good you are or whatnot, but maybe a piece of advice to listen to is if there are photographers out there who are just really good and you really respect and they see something in you, hopefully if you're listening, that kind of gives you the confidence to like, hey, go apply to that agency. And that's something I've been trying to do a lot more lately. Like I had a model the other day who was like 19. I typically don't work with people that young, but she wanted to do a test shoot, and I could see like you need to go apply to agencies like fucking right now. And she's just like, oh, I don't know if I'm pretty. Like stop fucking thinking about your looks. You're 5'11" and you look fine, but you also have like a look that certain agencies are looking for. Like they're so young that they can't even like.
No. They
see themselves on that level.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'm like 42. I'm like, no. I see a lot of models. Like you need to fucking apply to an agency like
girl,
yesterday.
you look like an extraterrestrial. Like you need to get signed. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, that's how I felt about her. But yeah, I stumble upon models every now and then when I'm like scrolling. I'm like, oh yeah. And then there's some that like I just don't get around to working with them. But 2-3 months later, they're off in New York at an agency. I was like, I was right about them. They've got a look that agencies are looking for.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember when I first started doing photography, I was doing street photography on South Congress back when all the jewelry was there. And that was a big, like 6 years ago. And I ran into these teenagers who were just like totally like, I think they're like 17, 18 at the time. And I was just like, hey, can I take your picture? Like one of them was just like, you know what, like when you pass someone by, male or female, and you just look at them and you're just like stunned at how just naturally, not only like their physical presence, but just like how they carry themselves. Yeah. So I ran into this girl. I was like, hey, can I take your picture? You're really pretty. Like, like if you don't want to, no big deal. Just walk off. It's fine. I took a picture, and within 2 weeks, the picture never did anything for her. But within 2 weeks, she was signed. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It's funny how
and
that
like
works.
she blew up like 50,000 on Instagram. Like she was just that good. She had that Gia, like I don't give a fuck. Like I listened to Kurt Cobain energy, and like never left that. She never like catered to the bullshit. You know what I mean?
That's such an Austin model right there.
Oh yeah.
They don't know how good they are. Can you skateboard? Is that in your contract? Can you still skateboard, or are you gonna have to probably put that on hold?
Oh no, I can still skateboard. It's been a minute. But I getting on a board a couple months ago. I still at my top speeds.
That's good. So for all of you who are listening, this is not like a hot chick standing next to a skateboard as like an accessory to a skateboard. She can actually fucking skateboard.
Yeah,
okay.
Man.
So like that's what's fucking cool about Melika is that she can actually like walk the walk. As a matter of fact, she can probably skateboard better than I can. I haven't skateboarded in years. Oh, I know you can. I fucking slip and break my wrist for sure.
Did you actually skateboard, or was it a longboard? Because
No.
all I've been hearing recently is like, yeah, I used to skate. I'm like, sick. They're like, yeah, I used to longboard. I'm like,
no, I had a Powell. I had a Powell skateboard with independent trucks, and I had
independent trucks.
I had the little Sprout wheels because it was easier to kick flip with the smaller wheels. But then you'd hit a rock and go flying off because you didn't have enough grip to stay on the fucking board. Yeah, it's the trade off.
I had a Sector 9 longboard. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm talking shit. Sorry.
Orange County guy.
Hey, that's fair. Yeah, no, I love flow. I love what they would call transition. There's two types of skating, street and transition. I love hitting a bowl and flowing and surfing, quarter pipes, all that.
Is the transition stuff, is that like Rodney Mullen in the 80s?
I don't know who that is.
Is that like the competition stuff where you're just like doing like tricks on the skateboard in like a circle, that kind of thing?
So, transition skating is like, so bowls, so a quarter pipe, so that's where you'll drop in, and you basically, the idea is that you don't want to have to push, is that you're pumping through a bowl that keeps up your momentum, and then you can go do 50-50s, grind, rock and rolls, all this other stuff. Whereas street skating is more of what Kevin was saying, of kick flips, ollies, grinding on curbs, shit like that.
Getting arrested.
Yeah.
Okay.
Getting yelled at by mall cops.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I have been before.
Yes. We're still gonna have to get your agency to sign off on it, but I still want to do shoot of you in something fashionable actually skateboarding. I still
Yeah.
want to do that idea. Not some bullshit where it's like, look, I'm holding onto a skateboard. I don't know what this thing does. It's like, no. She knows what the fuck it does.
Oh,
and I want to
man.
capture the authenticity of it. I think it'll be badass.
I've been seeing more photos of skateboards, of models with skateboards at like the skate parks that I would go to, and I'm like, you're not even on a board. Like, I just think about the locals there who are like, what? Who the fuck is these people here? Just like posers, being posers with skateboarding. So at least I can act like
I
have action behind it.
I still have my 3 big ideas I want to work on, and I'm gonna have to like make sure your agency clears them. So we'll work on those eventually. But before we depart for the day, is there anybody you want to shout out to? Anything you want to plug that you're working on? Anything like that?
Shout out to friends and family. Shout out to my Hawaiian Kona group, my Polynesian group. They've been great. Yeah. Not really. I'm kind of a lone wolf kind of gal.
Which is awesome. Yeah, you got one thing we didn't address that we have to address with every model that comes in here is you pass the off-duty model look test, which means that you're a true model. Which is the
Because I don't have makeup on.
And you're not all put together. You're just in the off. Like when Sophia came in here, she was wearing like boys pants and shit, just like whatever. But
I thought she looked incredibly Eastern European with the pants rolled up, the cargo pants and the chacos.
that's her vibe, man. Yeah.
Like-
but she's not like dolled up like in model mode.
No.
I am not a fan of current trends, and that's like one thing with shooting with photographers or just concepts is like I will not do a Doc Martens baggy jeans garage rooftop shoot. No Doc Martens, like just anything on trend. I just want to be classic and timeless. And like with the photos or like doing those photo shoots, and when I have to style myself, I think about what's going to look good long term versus just like look good in the moment because of the trends.
Well, I will say that one thing that does stand out, one of the reasons why I like working with you so much, and we've talked about this on the episode, is, models get into modeling for different reasons. They're all in there for the same reason. Some models, when I reach out to them and want to work with them, literally the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, who's styling it? Who's the makeup artist? And it's like, okay, the concept doesn't really revolve around that. And sometimes I feel like styling it with if I had to plug some stylist on there, it might distract from the point of what I'm trying to get at, which is telling a story or whatever. Sometimes I do styled shoots. I've done 2 or 3 styled shoots this week. But a lot of the stuff we work on, it's more based around the personality and the story and stuff like that. And so you're just like a trooper, like, let me see what I have in my closet or whatever. Or I'll go to Goodwill or whatever the fuck. Like I'll trash a dress in mud. Let's do it. And that's awesome. And I think that that's something that if a model's listening to this, it's like, if your goal is to get to that next level, like make sure you have an open mind about it. Because, if you're trying to do a shoot that tries to like say something maybe about the model personally, there's not going to be any better clothing than the shit that's in your closet, because you went out and bought that with your own money. And so, you don't have to fake anything. It's like, no, this is me. So like, this is a kind of a real version of me. Now let's go fucking nail the shoot or whatever. So
Yeah, I mean that, first time we shot together, asked, what's the concept, what kind of clothes, and you're like, whatever you want. And I'm definitely made me like anxious because I'm like, well, I don't know. But it ended up being a great shoot. Tighter clothing's always good. Any unique pieces, go for it. But yeah, you're right. Anything you have in your closet is going to look best on you. Because some styled shoots that we did, the first one we did with Sparkle, it was great, but definitely some of those clothes would never have chosen it. But it was beautiful styling. But
yeah, she did an awesome job. But yeah, I mean, that's the way fashion is.
Yeah.
I mean, 95% of the shit models put on they wouldn't wear. So
that photo shoot right there.
Yeah,
But you have to make it work, though.
Thank you so much, Melika Gradek. That does it for today's episode. We thank Melika for coming in and gracing us with her presence for Volume 2 of Models Talk Photographers. You can find us at f11pod.com. or with the handle F11Pod on Instagram and Twitter and the like. But we hope to do this series and continue this series in the future because we do love having models in studio. Thank you all for listening to today's episode. And until next time, taste light and not algorithms.
Thank you for listening to today's episode.
For more information about this podcast, go to www.f11pod.com.